We have from hull inspection to insight, maximising the value of limited access to trusted data which is obviously the fundamental of everything. And we have Callum McLean, Projects Director for Marine Technical Limits. Round of applause, please. Thank you. Cheers, Callum.
Well, thank you all for being here and being conscious. I always feel a conscious audience is a good audience. First of all, it's almost traditional I check if there's anyone from a classification society here. Any hands? No? That's good. That's good. They won't get upset at this rate. So I need to give a bit of background to start with as to what I'm talking about and why, and give you some insight so you can understand what it's all about. I don't expect everybody will have the background about FPSO hull integrity. There's only one person I can see here that really gets excited about that in this room. But so at MTL, our job is we look after the hull of ships, of FPSOs, which are effectively tankers that end up staying on station at sea for more than 20 years commonly. And we manage to provide solutions to help operators keep them operating safely and in a cost-effective way wherever possible. So, by way of background, MTL's been on the go since 2003. We've been working in tanks on FPSOs for nearly every day since 2006 or something, and we're involved in lots of industry bodies and things, and wrote the Ageing and Life Extension Guidelines for OUK and for the Energy Institute. So we've got a lot of background in what's going on here, and we also support FPSOs around the world in shipyards and on station. So what becomes a little bit peculiar is that many of the big companies that you know about, the owners and operators, have usually only got 1, 2 or 3 FPSOs. There's not many have got a lot of FPSOs, and therefore they don't have a lot of industry, they don't have a lot of knowledge of old and new FPSOs. That's not something that's very common. And so what we bring is we've got that knowledge. I think we worked on 15 FPSOs last year, so we've got a wide spread of knowledge that we can apply to owners who don't have that. So a little bit about what's unusual about FPSOs. If we look at the general trend on tankers, so an FPSO hull is like a tanker. They're built to the same standards. And with time, the level of inspection would increase quite significantly with a tanker. And you'll notice that from this graph, you can see some kind of steps at the 5 years, because these are what's called special survey points. So every 5 years, you have to have inspected so much. And then the next 5 years, you need to have done a bit more. And this builds up till after 15 years, onto a 2.5-year cycle of inspecting things quite a lot. FPSOs don't follow that same rules. So despite being exactly the same kind of hull structure, but being at sea continuously, and I should say that typically, this is now a little out of date, but typically tankers would be retired at 14 years old. You get rid of it before the third special survey, before it ends up costing you a lot of money, and you'd move it on. Unfortunately, the dark fleet seems to have taken all of them, and now the average age of tankers has gone up a little bit because, they don't have to comply with any rules now. But generally, the tanker fleet is younger, and that's how it works. FPSOs, we have a different view on life. We now have an expectation they're going to last 25, 30 years, maybe 20 years on station. It's going to be a long, and there's a feeling that when you are producing less oil, we want to spend less money maintaining it, which starts to become somewhat of a paradox and a really difficult thing to fix. So we've got to fight against this drive to reduce cost with the production rate, but still maintain it and keep it safe and viable, and help avoid having the big unexpected costs of either having to retire early or having major expensive repairs. So we've got this increased risk level there in that gap. So a little bit of reality of what hull inspections look like for those that haven't had the joy of spending time inside these large spaces. They are huge spaces, this, let's say the size of this room, but maybe 4 times higher. That's the typical size of a cargo tank. And it all looks much the same inside, and it's dark, and it's not normally inhabited. So we only get the chance to go into one of these spaces once in 5 years. You get one opportunity to go in, to do the inspection, to find the bits that are important. So you can then use that as intelligence to know what should you be looking at in the other tanks over the next 5-year cycle, and when should you be ready to do some major interventions. It might be the case it's not viable to keep your unit on station any longer, and you need to be having some really serious conversations with the grown-ups about another vessel or ending the field life. Something might need to change, and we need to have reliable data to be able to do that. And so what we've got, the other thing that's worth thinking about these FPSOs is they're not all the same. And just to put that in context, I looked up some numbers. There are 170 operating FPSOs in the world, 130 FSOs that don't have the topsides on them. That's not an awful lot, and there aren't many of them that are identical to each other. And there are different ages, there are different problems, and they're operated different ways. And then the ownership changes with time, which means the history with these assets is lost or didn't exist. And very often we're trying to fight to find drawings even of what we've got. So we end up having to come into a place of trying to apply 21st century approach to something that was built in 1975 and changed hands, traded as a tanker for 20 years, then got converted at a shipyard and sold twice since then. And going, yeah, well, give it your best shot here. So what we do is, the other interesting is we managed to make a digital twin out of this. And we do this on a structure which hasn't got tags on it. It's not like you have for the topsides where you've got a tag number for every valve and pressure vessel. We don't have that. In one tank, we've got thousands of details that are the same or very similar that could be inspection points we need to look at. So it ends up being a big data problem. But just to put that in the context, you only get that very small window to look at it every 5 years. And worse than that, we're going to hire a contractor that we don't know to come and do this inspection and go and look around it and report it however they feel like doing it. It's not ending up going to give you some great data for applying your AI to and your advanced analytics to see what's going to happen. So what we did at MTL, given that we were dealing with 20 FPSOs or so, we decided that we needed to move on to the 21st century. And about 10-15 years ago, we decided we're going to go digital on inspections. And we started that journey. And we're happy to say that we've now got to a place that we've got a sustainable digital approach here where we create all the inspection plans electronically. We download that to a tablet, and that creates the tasks to go around and do the operator goes around, and whether he's doing it manually or using a drone or using an ROV, whichever company, it doesn't matter, they go around and they can just click OK, yes, that was fine, I inspected it, it was OK, or there was an issue and raise a finding report. Now, that OK is what we call the white data. That's when you looked at something and found it was OK, and that gives you an insight and information that you can use in the future. Traditionally, that's not been recorded, because reporting was typically by exception. We just report what's wrong, and you don't have certainty about what was okay. So getting this part here to get that better quality of data means that you've then got something to say, there are 200 details similar to this on this vessel. We inspected 40 of them last year in different tanks, and they were all okay. That gives us confidence about the ones we've not inspected yet and can help us defer doing inspections. So just on our inspection definition, you can see on the sketches here, this is part of our interface as we define the inspections, and each one of these blocks represent a task. Putting that in scale, when I was supporting the Searose FPSO dry dock in Harland and Wolff a couple of years ago, we had 55,000 reportable tasks across the vessel. And because of the way we were doing it, we could actually progress report and know exactly how many we still had to go. And when it left the dry dock, in a bit of a hurry, because Harland and Wolff were no more at that point. We knew exactly the inspection condition of the vessel. We knew what had been done, what hadn't been done, and exactly all the results at the time, even though there were 3 different inspection contractors because of contractual difficulties on the way as well. So the data collection is done using the tablets, ATEX tablets. Anyone interested, you can come and come right in our stand and have a look, and you can have a shot at it yourself. And what we're really getting to here is where we see the future is that if we get reliable data at the start, because we've systemized it and made it easy for people to create reliable, good quality data because they're just accepting what's on the plan, then we've got something that we can then report and build on and manage all the way through the whole process. That gives us a grounding for doing AI on that data. We can review it in lots of ways using visualization tools. For years, we've been using virtual reality for this as well. But it lets us pull this all up. And so for us, really, the key to getting to this AI future is by having good quality data at the start. And on top of that, because we've designed this process of capturing this data using the tablets efficiently, it's actually more efficient to use the tablet inspection than it is for the traditional doing the manual reporting. Less overtime, less. The inspectors don't like it, but there's effectively we can get all the results collated before the people come off the vessel. We've got a chance to enhance the inspection at that point, and we maximise that opportunity that we're only going to get once in 5 years. So, just coming into we have to get to the where AI fits question, because I know that's what most of you really want to know. And the big things that we feel like here are that certainly the strengths of it are creating the apps, doing cross-checking, summarizing, doing the repetitive tasks that they'll do things that we can get the AI to do things that we wouldn't normally get around to doing. And that's where we really get that extra bit, because we want to do it, but we haven't got the time to do it. And doing the validation and doing good cross-checking of what we've got. On the weaknesses side, we don't have enough volume of information to be able to train models on everything we've got. There's not a good enough pattern on everything we've found, and there's so many holes in the data that you can't. Our experience is more valuable than what we could possibly get out of training the AI at this point. The training burden would be too much, and we wouldn't be able to trust what we get from it. So we can trust what it gets from the results we know is on good data, but to try to get it to make predictions off of the data before we've actually done that collection is a big problem. Putting that in a real world context, we had a social in the company not very long ago, and we went to the pub for a pub quiz. I asked the AI before the start of the pub quiz if it could give me the answers to the questions of the first round. I didn't know what the first round was, and I didn't know what any of the questions were. It came back and it said, the first round is likely to be general knowledge, and it gave me 10 really good answers with explanations about why they were good answers. Like, there'll be a question on literature. William Shakespeare's always a good answer to that one. There'll be a planet. You want to use Mercury for that. And all of the answers were plausible and well-founded, but all of them were wrong. So it's important that we realize that we realize the weaknesses and when we've got something that is valuable. Okay, so final message is we need to exploit the inspection opportunities we've got and make sure we put the maximum value into the planning of those to create data we can trust. And effectively, that data quality determines the value, then AI enhances the data. It doesn't replace it. Okay. Thank you very much.